I did think about doing other sorts of businesses, but digital marketing, I love it. I do really enjoy it. Like if I won the lottery, I wouldn't do a different job. Time was my most critical factor. And so I had to learn from the very beginning, it can't be me. It can't all be dependent on me. I need to have a team and a structure around me. So yes, I'm involved, but it's not dependent on me because I couldn't be there all the time.
Kids are going to grow up and they're going to leave you. If you don't give time now to yourself, by the time they leave you, you're going to be like, who am I? On today's episode of the All Business Baby podcast, I'm speaking to Joanna Sharma from Drum Digital.
I really did enjoy that flexibility. My dad got very unwell, and in his last couple of years of life, I got that opportunity to work from my parents' house. It just meant that I just was with him every day through his final years. And if I had a job and had to go to the city every day, I just couldn't have done that. So I was able to sustain the business, have the children, be there for my dad. My daughter was quite unwell last year, and I was able to have that in and out flexibility. So it has given me what I need to have a good life.
Joe, welcome to the All Business Baby podcast. Thank you for joining me. So before we get into all the good stuff, can you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am originally from England and I've been in Australia about nearly 20 years now. Got 2 little girls, an 8 and 9-year-old and a husband and a dog. And we live in Sydney, and I've run a business called Drum Digital, and it's a digital marketing agency that I've run for 9 years now.
Excellent. So you've been in Australia for 20 years now. Mm-hmm. Why did you come to Australia?
I came to Australia because my sister had moved here. So she backpacked and then met an English guy in Australia and then got married in England and then moved over here with him. And my parents did the long distance thing for some time between the two places. Yeah, they were like, and then they decided they were going to move over here. And there was a big pro-Sydney campaign. I just don't really like getting pushed into things I don't want to do. So I was like, I'll just wait and see. Yeah. And then went backpacking over here and I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. I was like, maybe I'll stay. Like, it's quite nice. So I went home for a little bit, back to the UK. And then my friends were like, oh, we're going to live with our parents and save some money before we go and live in London. And I was like, oh, I thought we were going to come back and live in London. So I was like, oh, my family aren't here, so I'm going to go to Sydney, and did it there. And by the time I had a job and rented an apartment and furnished it, like flipping back to London wasn't less appealing at that point. So.
Is it because of the weather or is it the lifestyle? Because it's got to be the weather.
It is. The weather was the absolute draw card. I hate being cold. So that was the draw card. But it is more than that. It's a lifestyle. I feel very safe here. Yeah,
we are pretty isolated from the rest of the world, so.
Yeah, which has its benefits.
Yeah.
It does.
No, it's good. I do find that a lot of Australians love just to backpack and go to London and vice versa. Yeah. So you always find a big community wherever you go, right? Because I went to London and I found a lot of Aussies there. I'm like,
there's so many.
Yeah, there's so many. Like I just wanted to meet some London people, like English people, right? So, but yeah, the draw card for me to move back to Australia was one, raising the family, and I thought the best place to do it was Australia because it's nice and safe and isolated, but also the weather was a big thing. Yeah. Living in London, 10 months out of the 12, you're just miserable.
Yeah.
It's cold, it's sad, you don't want to do anything, you don't want to get out of bed. But yes, that's why I'm back here.
Yes, I totally understand. I remember visiting once and going back and I said, feels like someone's left the lid on because the clouds are all low. And it's like here you've got the big high skies and it just feels open and bigger, even in the city.
Yeah, it's so nice. And you're looking up and it's like the blue is blue and the green is green. It's just it's like crack for the eyes.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good.
No, that's good. So Joe, you've moved to Australia. Yep. What did you do for work, or did you get into business straight away?
Yeah, I worked, in the UK I worked for the Dixon's Group, which is a bit like a sort of Harvey Norman. So I worked over there in the head office on their website. They're called Currys. Yeah, you know Currys?
Currys, yeah.
So they had a high street retail store and I worked for the online store. Yeah. That was my first job out of uni. And then I came over here. My mum met somebody in a pub who was an agency for Grays Online, the online auction house. Yes. And so she was like, my daughter works in online retail. And next minute I got an interview with with Grays Online and ended up working for them for a few years. And then, jumped around a bit, went through media, worked for news.com, and then spent quite a few years working at the Australian Institute of Company Directors. So I was always client side, always digital marketing. So I knew the marketing stuff really well. And then I got married and then had my first daughter. And when I was on parental leave, they had a big wave of redundancies and I was let go. But I'd already been thinking, was now the time to start my business? And then having a little cash injection was just a little boost I needed to make it happen. And I think when people have children, I think it's a good time to sort of think about what do you want? How do you want your work family set up to be? And I was looking for flexibility. So I thought having my own business would achieve that.
Oh, that's good. So you mentioned that you were kind of ready, before being made redundant, you were thinking about getting into business. What was the main reason for that thought? Because at that point in time, you weren't married yet, you didn't have a kid yet, so...
I think it was the main catalyst of thinking about doing it was really when I was married and when I knew I was going to be, when I was pregnant.
Right.
So yeah, it was actually when I was pregnant. I was thinking, how do I want this to be? Do I want to go back to a 9 to 5? And what structure do I want my life to take? And I've also, from working client side, thought, well, you know what? I feel like I know as a client what I would want from my agency. Yeah. So I wanted to live that and be able to deliver that for clients from not having been tainted from an agency experience. Obviously, that was quite naive because learning about agency world was a steep learning curve because, I knew marketing but didn't know running a business, and that came out of the cold.
Oh, yeah, it comes with that as well. Okay, so when you did have that thought process of running a business, did you initially go, yep, I want to do digital marketing? Did you have any ideas about running a different type of business? Or
I did think about doing other sorts of businesses, but no, digital marketing I love it. I do really enjoy it. Like if I won the lottery, I wouldn't do a different job. Like I would absolutely do the job I do.
Less of it, right? You'd be spending money traveling.
Yeah, well, maybe, break it up, but I'd still do it just as much. Like I do really enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it. Like the whole marriage of like technology with marketing and understanding people, like it really interests me and excites me, and I've always wanted to do it. So I didn't really think about doing something different. I just thought about, I want to do this in a different, less structured structure of the 9 to 5.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So the main motivation was the fact that you had to think about your future, your kids, and how you wanted your life to be. And the main thing was flexibility.
I didn't necessarily want to put my daughter into daycare immediately. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I just wanted to be around a bit more for those first few months, years. I think we had help, don't get me wrong. Like it was tough to do on my own, but I did have a husband.
Yeah.
He was
don't
there
forget
too.
about your husband, Joe. He's done a lot as well.
He was there too. He was at work. We did initially pay for a nanny to work in the mornings because I ended up having my second daughter within 5 months of your eldest was only 5 months old. So 2 under 2 and new business.
Straight into it,
Yeah, my first year of business, I had a newborn.
Okay.
And got pregnant with another baby. So years 1 and 2, I had.
You're crazy, Joe.
Yeah. That's what everyone says. So I had 2 under 2 in the first 2 years of business. So that was... But it was excellent training in many ways because time was my most critical factor. And so I had to learn from the very beginning, it can't be me. It can't all be dependent on me. I need to have a team and a structure around me. So yes, I'm involved, but it's not dependent on me because I couldn't be there all the time. I was, it was a full-time job with 2 babies.
Yeah, I bet.
Plus growing a business, and to do
3
that.
3 babies.
Yeah, 3 babies, exactly. I had 3 babies at once. So it just meant that it was all about system and process and structure in the team to allow that to happen.
Yeah, so I guess your tip for anyone starting a business then would be to make sure you do have those system and process to start off, just because that's going to allow you to, or free up time for you to do all the things.
Absolutely. It worked really well initially. And then, I know when I then wanted to grow the team even bigger, the system processes I had at the beginning didn't actually work in the same way. They needed to be revised. And that definitely took a bit of another... And I think as you go to that next stage, it was another learning process around new systems, new processes for a bigger team they're critical.
Oh, that's good. So I guess from your experience, the first few years, there was a lot of chopping and changing of how your business operated just because it did grow. And then you realized that, hey, this no longer works and I've got to continue improving the business systems and process to make sure it does work now.
To a degree. I think the business worked well as it was only when I wanted to grow it and make it bigger and sort of put a bigger team in place to try and make that happen. And then I spent a lot of my time supporting the team as opposed to doing new business and new sales, which is what I hope to free up my time to do by having a team. And then without having the right system and processes, it meant that I didn't have enough time to do that. So I had to sort of rewind on that and then put those systems and processes in place. And that was absolutely critical to be able to move forward.
No, that's good. So I guess besides the systems and processes, do you have any other tips for anyone out there looking to start their own business? What they should be thinking about?
I think just the time commitment that it does take. I mean, I approached it for flexibility, and that's what I wanted to achieve. Initially, that was quite difficult because obviously there was 2 babies in the mix as well. But, so much if you are moving from client side where I was kind of like making the decisions and I had team like agencies helping me. Suddenly I'm the agency and you have to be available. And so I found that, the 9 to 5 definitely didn't have the structure of the 9 to 5, but it was almost always on. And so, you've always got to be responsive and at any time of the day. So it's different structure, but there's still a big commitment of time initially when you're in that growing phase, and just being available to somebody.
Yeah, so you wanted to get into business so that you could have the flexibility, but what you got was a different type of flexibility, which is always on all the time.
Yeah, and that's got absolutely much better as the business has grown. But those first couple of years, I was getting calls all sorts of times on all sorts of hours, and I was responding to them because I was growing a business. And you do whatever you needed to do, but that's definitely settled down now as we've matured.
Good. It's probably the case for most businesses that provide a particular service. I remember my first year, I was always on the phone or always available. So you just had to find sort of a point of difference to your clients, because if you're available whenever, wherever, they're going to think this guy's great. I'm going to refer him her onto someone else, and that's going to help you grow their business. So you do have to make that or have that time commitment to say, the first or second year is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
I do want time, freedom or flexibility in the future, but it just means that I've got to sacrifice a bit now, and that's kind of what you've done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was some late nights and sometimes when you got up with the babies in the night, I'm like, I'm just going to log in and do some things in the middle of the night. And my husband would get up and be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just had to do a couple of things.
That's good. And so, during the first year or two, I'm assuming you also got a lot of support from your husband as well, because he would have had to know that you were going to take this leap of faith and start your own business.
Yeah, for the first couple of years, we had a nanny that worked in the mornings, and she was a godsend because she would take my older one to like a little play group, and I just have the morning to just be with the baby where I could do work or do whatever. And then she would come home and she would prepare the dinner. And it was just such a small thing, but it made such a big difference to our lives, because we were just hardly even having an ability to have a shower because everything was just like hectic with 2 babies. But we ate well. Just having that little piece of normality and having a decent meal every night, that was worth its weight in gold.
No, that's good. I mean, I do find cooking is a scam, just because, you might spend an hour buying groceries, another hour cooking, and then it takes you 5 minutes to just chug it all down, right? It's like, I just killed like 2 hours. And so no, that's really good. And I guess before you made that leap of faith to a business owner, did you have any conversations with your partner, your husband, to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do? And how did he respond?
I'm sure we probably did. I'm quite headstrong. I don't think God help him if he tried to stop me doing whatever I want to do. But I'm sure there was a conversation, but I don't really recall it. Like, he'd have always been pretty supportive of what I wanted to do, and I would have sold it well. I'm in marketing.
That's awesome. Okay, excellent. Well, good. We know who wears the pants in that relationship.
I would support him with whatever he wanted to do as well. But I think he knew I wouldn't have just come up with it, on a whim. So he's always been supportive.
Awesome. So now you're in year 9 of business? Yes. And how, say for the last few years, because you have been quite in business for some time now, how's that differed to, your first few years of business?
We've had like tough couple just getting started from a time perspective. But then when things were going well, it was really good. And I really did enjoy that flexibility. Like, you know, my dad got very unwell. And in his last couple of years of life, I got that opportunity to work from my parents' house. It just meant that I just was with him every day through his final years. And if I had a job and had to go to the city every day, I just couldn't have done that. So I was able to sustain the business, have the children, be there for my dad. My daughter was quite unwell last year and I was able to have that in and out flexibility. So it has given me what I need we have a good life. And so it's provided that for us. Obviously my husband's got a good job too, but I feel also the business has really delivered that lifestyle factor and you know, we have the life that we want. It's definitely become a lot tougher in the last couple of years. And I think maybe that's part of that, you know, is the current economic environment and what's been happening there. Maybe it's just time for a reinvention. I'm not sure one of the things, but yeah, last couple of years, it's definitely needed to work a lot harder to get new clients and make things work.
Oh, that's awesome. So obviously when you first started business, you set out a goal to achieve the flexibility and the balance in your life, and you've been able to business has been able to give you that, right?
Yeah.
So that's amazing. And, you know, you hit the nail on the head where if you were working at 9 to 5 in the city, you're really chained to your desk, right? Yeah. And to do all those things that you've just mentioned, you probably wouldn't have been able to, or you might have had that guilt as well. Just, you know, you're trying to please both sides, you know, your employer and your family members. And it's kind of like, well, you kind of got to choose your family first, right? Yeah. But then you've always got that guilt behind you, like, I'm doing crap for work. It's not a good look because you're consistently leaving or doing all those things. But being a business owner, you don't have to feel that guilt and you can just spend that time because you've built that business. So
absolutely. We're the sandwich generation, like we're going to have young children and aging parents where that's a lot of commitment. And so who does that? And like you either outsource one of them, you either outsource the work or you outsource the personal bit. So I felt like I was able to combine a bit of both.
Oh, that's good. Now, being in business for quite some time now, what would you say some of the toughest challenges you've gone through, one or two that you can think of on top of your head, and how have you, I guess, overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think the ones that probably affect me the most are when it comes to people, like in the team. Like I mentioned before, we did grow the team and didn't have those systems and processes in place, and I wasn't freeing up my time to focus on sales. So I built the team before to then make them busy, and I was meant to bring the work in, and then I ended up managing the team as opposed to bringing the work. And so, you know, I think having that balance of knowing when the right time is to scale up and bring in more people, because letting people go, that's a really hard thing to do mentally, emotionally. Like, you know, I lost sleep over that. And then once we had a particular employee who I'd worked with for a number of years, and I just noticed things weren't happening. There just seemed a lack of commitment. And I suspected, and I'm pretty sure she had another job she was doing at the same time. And so, and I just felt so fiercely loyal to her. And so it took me such a long time to go, I know this is happening. I have to do something about it. Yep. And I did. But that was a really hard one. I really struggled with that, letting her. I mean, I had to let her go, but it just felt like I wanted it to be a really good situation that worked out really well. And I couldn't do anything about it. So
I think running a small business is tough, right? Because you know, people that you hire, they end up becoming friends as well. Yeah. But, you know, as a business owner, you kind of have to take the emotion out of it as well at times. And as hard as it may be, you've got to do it. I've seen clients just not make the business decision when they should have made it. Yeah. And that because they've let the emotion lead the way in that relationship. And that's led them to, I guess, tough situations with their business, experiencing cash flow issues, and you know, now they're in a rut because they couldn't let go of a particular employee, or because, you know, one example, one employee, and this is going to sound really, really rough, right? But one employee, the employee's daughter was like terminally ill. He had a deal with my client to sell the business to him, and I think that went on for about a year and a half or so. But on top of that, the vendor and employee had also just taken the client for a ride at the time. It's been now a year since the daughter had passed, but he was getting paid a full-time salary, yet not really giving full-time efforts, maybe half the time. But and at the time, as tough as it was saying, maybe because there's a degree of separation as well, I said, you've got to cut him loose and, end the relationship because he's actually costing you quite a lot. Because I'm a numbers guy. I'm just going to show you the numbers and tell you and advise you the numbers without any emotion. But he obviously couldn't let it go. But, just because of the emotion, and he's seeing that or experiencing that raw emotion with that employee / vendor. So, that now has led him to experience his business is in a very poor position at the moment just because of that. But as hard as it and as bad as it may sound, sometimes you do just have to really rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, it's definitely a really difficult thing to strike a balance with. You feel loyal to your team and want to make it work and feel like you need to be the one to make it all right for everybody. But it's tough if it's not reciprocated the other way then. So did he let him go?
It's on its way. Okay. It's happening, which is, I'll keep you updated. But, I always say to other business owners, when you are hiring people, they're almost like kids, right? Your kids, because it's your responsibility you're paying them, so you're putting food on their table, but it's also your responsibility to keep them busy. But it gets to a point where if they're taking you for a ride, well, now they're playing with your food on the table. And you got to think about that. That's your family on the line as well, because most business owners, the profits are their income for their family. So you got to think about that. And if those guys or your employees aren't or are taking the piss, you got to cut them loose and take the emotion out of it. So yeah, very important lesson. So guys, if anyone is out there hiring someone, it is you've got to find the balance.
Yeah.
Manage that relationship and also understand that when it's time to, get cutthroat, you've got to.
Yeah.
And maybe outsource the firing to someone else, perhaps.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like the outsourced HR agencies or anything like that for a small business is someone this year. And it's really good to have that system and process because we know our world and bringing in experts that know their world and how to do things professionally in their discipline, I think is absolutely critical.
That's right. Now you're in your 9th year of business. Where are you at now with business and what are you doing now to take yourself or take the business to the next level?
Last year we were in a kind of let's just keep things going as they are because we've got a great group of clients that we're working with and, we were just keeping working and I mentioned my daughter was really unwell. So I had other priorities. But this year things have settled down a lot. So we're excited about potential growth this year and starting to see some of that come through, which has been really exciting. So yeah, at this point, I think just making sure we've got all the lessons that I've learned over the last 9 years and we don't repeat any of those. Yep. So having really good systems and processes, making sure we've got the team really on board and starting to do some of what I do for clients for myself so that we do, which is always one of the hard things to do when you're in business is it's so exciting to work on other people's work and then doing some of that same activity for yourself. Yeah, so just making some of that happen for us.
Excellent. Oh, that's good. Now, away from business, you've gone into business to achieve flexibility, a balance in life. 9 years in, do you still have that flexibility and balance? Do you find that it's given you everything that you wanted?
I think at the beginning, it was definitely around, I really wanted that time. The time was the most critical piece and I have an income and to have more time with my children. And I absolutely was able to have that when they were young, which was amazing. And then I think now the priority, because we probably stretched ourselves and went, let's get the dream house and let's get the dog and the car and live in the area we want to live and do all those things. And then now the priority is making sure that we can sustain that and the financial flexibility to have around that. And then I think the future for me will be once all of those ducks are in a row and is then thinking about having more time for downtime. I started when my dad passed away, I picked up the guitar. I wanted to start playing that. And, I practiced for about the first year and a half. And then I worked on this big project around the election and it was just intensive routine working on that. And so I put it down and then it's been a year and a bit now. And I still haven't picked it up. But because I feel like when I have downtime, it's either with the children or on the business. So
there is no downtime.
Yeah, or I'm socializing, but downtime that's more I want that extra bit of time for
you, for Joe.
For me, just to do some, read a book or play the guitar, where I feel like those sorts of things are still a little bit of a luxury that is on, I don't want it to be quite on the retirement plan. I just want them to be a little bit sooner than that. So,
I think you're probably onto something, right? Because I feel like as a business owner with a family and kids, you end up, especially with it being a mum as well, right? You probably end up giving yourself or giving your time away to all those things and you leave nothing for yourself. And I think one thing that I've been thinking about in my mind is kids are going to grow up and they're going to leave you, right? Not in a bad way, but in a good way. They grow up, they got to live their own life. And it's like, if you don't give time now to yourself, by the time they leave you, you're going to be like, who am I?
Yeah.
You're going to forget about yourself and what you enjoy. Because, you know, I've kind of gone through that thought process like, you know, when I'm running my business, I've got a family, I've given all my time to everyone and everything, but haven't really given time to myself. And I don't know what fun is anymore, and I don't know if I'm having fun or being happy, you know, all those things. So it's about, I think, finding a balance of maybe giving yourself an hour or telling your wife, you know what, I'm gonna do this weekend, and you've got the kids, and you know, just to give you a bit of your life back, because you know you've dedicated, you know, the last 10 years to everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like I do probably butt the trend slightly there, that I do make sure I always have a lot of fun.
Good.
I do always find time for socialising, me and my husband going out. Like, we like to party, and we do. Yeah. And so I have managed to maintain that. And we do have a lot of fun. So I feel like my life is full of a lot of fun. And the kids, we have fun with the children too. But yeah, it's that quiet, reflective time when I'm at home. Particularly, I find that's the time. It's when I'm at home, I'm like, oh, should I put that load of washing on? Should I be preparing some dinner? When I really just want to sit and strum the guitar or read a book or do something quiet. So yeah,
let them starve. Don't worry about them. Yeah. They can have some dirty clothes. That's fine. Flip your undies the other way around. You'll be fine. No, that's good. I guess maybe I need to take some lessons from you then, Jo.
Yeah, let's go.
They had fun. Yeah. No, awesome. All right, Jo, thanks for jumping on the podcast today and sharing your story and journey. It was very enlightening. Hopefully someone in the audience has, you know, related to things that you've gone through, and that they can use that to start their own or continue their business journey. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, thank you.
So if you're about to begin your business journey, or you're currently going through your business journey, tune into future episodes so that you can learn more and find a supportive community. Otherwise, follow me on LinkedIn for more.